Little Women. In 19th century America, the Civil War had not yet ended. Snow fell quietly, covering a small town in New England. At the end of the dark street, warm lights glowed from a neighbor's grand house. Joe leaned against the frozen window, staring at a light that did not belong to them. Inside the house, it was cold. The fire in the hearth burned weakly. Meg stood by the table, holding a worn and faded dress. She let out a quiet sigh. Little Amy lay on the floor, drawing on scraps of paper, imagining hats and canes from noble balls. Beth, the third sister, sat in the corner, her fingers moving slowly across the out-of-tune piano. The notes broke softly in the air. Their father was far away, on the battlefield of the Civil War, his life uncertain. Jo brushed the dust from her trousers, stood straight, and said loudly, "One day I will earn a lot of money and give everyone a good life." Jo was never a proper lady. She ran through the woods like a boy, her boots crushing fallen leaves. Once, she leaned too close while feeding the fire. A spark jumped, burning a small hole in her skirt. She glanced down, sinned, smiled lightly, and did not mind. She met the lonely boy next door, Laurie. They hid in the attic, reading forbidden books. They lay on the grass, talking about the world beyond the town and lives not yet begun. Jo believed that life held more than marriage. Late at night, she lit a small lamp and wrote line by line, on scrap after scrap of paper. One morning, a telegram arrived. Her father was ill and needed treatment urgently. The cost of medicine and the long journey left the family silent. Jo said nothing. She walked alone into a barber shop. The scissors fell. Dark brown hair scattered on the floor. It was the only part of herself she had ever thought truly feminine. She returned with $25. That night, she cried quietly beneath the quilt. The next day, she smiled at her sisters and said, "This is what I should do." Time passed. The war finally ended. Among falling leaves, Laurie asked Jo to marry him. He offered her a grand house and a comfortable life. Jo's eyes filled with tears, but she shook her head. She said, I cannot give up my freedom just to make you happy. This was not cruelty, but clarity. Fate did not slow down. Because of her courage, Beth, the quiet third sister, grew weaker day by day. Jo stayed by her bed. Night after night, she wrote desperately, as if words could stop time. But one quiet morning, Beth's hand slipped from Jo's grasp. The house once full of laughter was never whole again. The sisters went on, toward different lives. Meg married for love and lived a modest but gentle life. Amy traveled to Paris, learning art, enduring poverty and loneliness. Jo remained in the attic, teaching by day, writing by night, rejected again and again. Only Beth's sewing basket remained beside her. Years later, she finished the book. It told the life of 4 sisters, their poverty, their quarrels, and their farewells. The book was published. The pay was small, but enough to live without bowing. She slowly bought back the old house. Later, she opened a school there. She belonged to no one. Many years later, she stood by the window again. Snow fell softly, just like before. She finally understood life is never perfect. Yet it always belongs to those who dare to write it.